Those evil people did horrible things to Jesus, but God's plan changed those horrible things into something good. The Bible talks about that over and over again, how God can use evil, he can use horrible things for good. He uses all things for good. Jesus was going along with everything that these evil people were doing to him so that he could take the punishment for our sins. Now, you have to remember, he was God, so he could have taken himself down from the cross. He could have gotten superpowers and blown all the Roman soldiers away. He could have made the cross, remember how he had that heavy cross on him? He could have made it float up in the air. I mean, he was God. He could have done anything he wanted, but he humbled himself. The Bible says in Philippians that he humbled himself to death on a cross, meaning he allowed it to happen, which that would be really hard to just allow it to happen, allow people to abuse you, allow people to be mean to you, allow people to punish you when you could stop it. Oh, it'd be so hard. It'd be very tempting. But this is the only way that all people everywhere could be forgiven of their sins and have a friendship with God. This was a part of God's plan. And that's what makes it beautiful, is the plan is beautiful. Every week we have a connection item, and this week's connection item, surprise, surprise, is the cross. This will help us to remember what Christ did for us on the cross. We call it his sacrifice. And it's because a sacrifice was something in the Old Testament that was needed to cover sins. And it used to be, the sacrifice used to be an animal that did not have any blemish or stain or anything wrong with it, which is why Jesus, being sinless, is the perfect sacrifice. Jesus had to die because everyone everywhere has sinned against God. It is easy to recognize that these evil people were sinning when they did these horrible things to Jesus. But did you know that you sin too? Now, I'm going to tell you a secret. This word sin is not popular with people who don't believe in Jesus. In fact, people are like, we're all good. We're all good people. We don't sin. But it's not true. The Bible tells us so. But he doesn't let us sit in that sin. God never says, oh, you guys are so bad. Instead, he says, you were sinners. You are sinners, but I have made you clean. So in my sight, you are holy and beautiful and redeemed. That's what's so beautiful about the gospel. Let's take a look at this slideshow to understand sin a little bit better. It says, you've probably never done something as horrible as what we just learned about the people did to Jesus, but you've still sinned. Everyone has sinned. Any sin, even something super small, separates us from God. God cannot be in a relationship with someone who is sinful because he is holy and pure. How many of you have ever lied before? Even a tiny white lie, even something that, there's no consequence. I have a yellow skateboard in my backpack. Oh, it's really blue. No, any lie is a sin and it separates us from God, and there's consequences. We've all disobeyed our mom and dad. I know yesterday I asked Merritt to do something and he turned to me and said, no, that's a sin. Those are all things. Sometimes it's not even that obvious. Sometimes it's your mom asks you to clean your room and 3 hours later you still haven't cleaned your room. That's disobeying. When we disobey our parents, there are consequences. We may get a timeout, a spanking, or lose a special privilege. It's not fun, certainly. And it's like that with God. When we sin against God. So God has to judge that sin for what it is. With judgment of sin comes punishment. So our sins against God must be punished. We've all sinned, which means you and I are sinners and we need God's rescue plan. And the great news is that punishment, Jesus took it for us. So it's not like God's up in heaven saying, I'm going to come down and punish you. No, God's rescue plan was